Right now, here with me, I have Maria Baltazzi. This amazing lady. She's a producer of CBS Survivor.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so basically, she climbed 15,000-foot trail, led African safaris, and much more. But I'm gonna tell you why we're here today. We are here today because while watching contestants, Maria had her own epiphany. Maria has crafted her own experience into a new book, Take a Shot of Happiness, How to Write, Direct, and Produce the Life That You Want. So, Maria, tell us about the book.
So the book is one that I wished I would have had early in my journey, in that it takes a creative, holistic approach to being happier. So the book that I have is a creative roadmap to being happier. And I use camera, phone, photography, and journaling prompts to help teach readers the virtues, qualities, and habits of happy people.
Awesome, awesome. Um, Also, I wanted to add, being a producer of the show, what have you learned? What experience?
Well, the thing that there were two major takeaways that I left the show with that still stay with me to today. And one led into the other. The first being that you would have a contestant that you're interviewing for the show in a hotel room. It's a controlled environment. And they are articulate, they're funny, they're physically fit, and you think, wow, this is going to be a great contestant. And then you get them into a remote environment and they melt. And I came to understand that there is a difference in fitness, in mental fitness and physical fitness. There's a difference between urban fit, as I call it, and survival remote island fit. So that was one, which led into the second thing that was my big takeaway, is that I would always do the very last episode. So I was with the contestants all the way through until the end. And time again, I would hear, this is not really me. This is just me playing a game. And I'm like, how is it not you? These are your words and actions. It is you. And what that told me, what that taught me was we all have different shades of our personality. And we don't really know what we are going to do until we are in that situation. So if you've never been on an island competing for life-changing money before, you have no idea how you're going to behave. So those two were huge takeaways for me.
Did you see a change in people personalities um, on the island? Because being on that island, you have to survive. What personalities have you seen? Like maybe the nice person became the greedy person. What personalities did you see?
Yeah, and I mean, you just said it there in that you would see the run of the both. You would see seemingly nice people turning into very manipulative and conniving people, and that's where they would get, I didn't know that this was me. This is not really me, because they were transforming through that experience. They were tapping into, really, I think, a type of fear that was causing them to really, get greedy or very strategic. That fear of losing, that fear of not making the big win that will change their life. And then you had people that remained just so beautiful. I mean, like Elizabeth Hasselbeck, Tina Wesson, and in the Australian outback. Ethan Zahn, who was the winner of Australia Africa, he could barely sit through an interview. I mean, he was so self-conscious. And by the time we were leaving, he just really blossomed into being able to, you know, answer the questions and feeling very comfortable in front of the camera. And that is also a beautiful example of somebody who took his winnings and then did good with it. He started a soccer organization that was about AIDS awareness.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, and specifically in Africa.
Okay. And I also read that you also helped several charities.
Yes, so I talk about this in my book under my happiness essential, which is gratitude. And I have this natural ability to walk, and wanting to pay forward that natural gift. I supported Ethan Zahn, who was diagnosed with cancer, and that particular year when he was diagnosed, he was a spokesperson for Livestrong. That was a sponsor for the New York Marathon. And I called up Ethan and I said, I want to be supportive. My mother went through cancer. You know, I care about you. And next thing I knew, I was fundraising for cancer awareness through Livestrong and training for my first marathon. And when you do something like that, when you are taking a natural gift and you are giving back, what that is doing, it is opening you up to what is called a helper's high. And a helper's high is similar to a runner's high, and that's the feel-good endorphins that get released when you're running. And so what the helper's high is, it's you feel good because you are helping, and then somebody is the recipient of what you are doing that is good for them. And the Dalai Lama calls that being wisely selfish. So you're helping yourself and you're helping someone else.
Mm. What possessed you to want to become a producer?
I've just always loved story. And I've always seen it, even when I was reading my earliest books. And it was The Great Gatsby, where I saw that I saw the words. And I just, you know, it just kept going from there. I just kept following what attracted me and with story.
And what was your before? I'm pretty sure you've done other things before the Survivor reality show. What were some of the other things did you work on before you started?
Well, I was always attracted to doing adventure shows, which is why I was hired on Survivor, because I had done a number of wildlife shows and I was already traveling through the world. And when we were shooting the very first season, I was the only producer who had actually shot a show in Borneo. So it was just a natural extension.
And you mentioned gratitude. So you travel to so many different countries. Have you learned to have gratitude seeing other countries struggle in poverty or other means?
Well, certainly you do learn, and that's one of the many beautiful things that I love about traveling, uh, is that you are grateful. You learn to be grateful for what you have. And one of the best examples, you know, going back into my producing world, was it was the second season of Survivor in the Australian outback, and it was once the tribes had merged, if you know the game, and it was very hot. And I showed up and nobody wanted to do anything. And it was a day where we were doing an endurance challenge where they had to hold a rod across their shoulders with buckets of sand at either end. And we thought, given how tired and hungry they were, you know, this was going to be over pretty quickly. Except the reward was for hamburgers and hot dogs and a warm cot. And so that was a great motivator to you know, keep hanging on to those buckets as you know, much as possible. So eventually there was a winner. And while the endurance challenge had been going on throughout the afternoon, storm clouds had started to gather. And I was starting to take the tribe back to camp, and there was just this deluge of rain that just dumped. And it was a quick range, so it went away pretty quickly. However, when we got to the camp, they had built their tent in a dry riverbed, which was now a torrent of river, just white water everywhere. Everything almost was just washed away. And the shock that was on the contestants' faces, and they were like ghosts moving through, picking up a fishing hook, a fleece. And they realize, as they're now sitting on the edge of darkness, that they had no food. They had no matches to light what rice can of food that they had. And in that moment, it completely broke their spirit. And they just plopped down on the sand, and they huddled up to put their backs against each other to keep warm, and they found a wet sandy blanket to put over the heads for some sort of, shelter. And then it was Elizabeth Hasselbeck that remembered what day it was. It was Thanksgiving.
Oh.
And in that moment, the game completely stopped. No alliances, no who's getting voted off, no strategy. And one by one, it just spontaneously happened. They went around the circle saying what they were grateful for. They didn't have anything, hardly anything, yet they found gratitude, which is a form of hope. And when you think about, all right, they're in a controlled environment, it's a game, production will take care of them. Well, production wasn't going to replace their food because they were the ones that put their camp in a dry riverbed. So they had to accept those consequences. But when you think about how they were grateful and their circumstance of being hungry, not having shelter, it's dark, missing their families on Thanksgiving, that moment was very real to them. And when you think about the hurricanes in Maui, the floods in Libya, the earthquake in Morocco, and you see these news reports where people are crying and all that I have lost, but yet they are grateful. They're grateful. I'm still alive. My family's still alive. And that gratitude it's huge because it's such a source of strength and hope.
They should put celebrities on the island to learn gratitude.
Yeah.
Because, or even just kids in the city, because sometimes they so used to certain things. I don't know if they could handle survival mode of appreciating for what you have, but basically learning to appreciate what you have.
Yeah. And a lot of the contestants did have that throughout the game. That is something I did see from season to season, that there was a genuine felt sense of gratitude from many of the contestants.
And what was your responsibilities as a producer?
Oh gosh, you were in charge of stories, telling the camera crews where the stories were, what to follow, interviewing the contestants, and then once you shot everything, you put your shows together. You took it into the edit room.
Did you go to school for it, for film?
You know what? I went to film school afterwards.
Okay.
I was already a director and a producer, and then I just wanted to learn the film vocabulary. And so I went to film school because I just had an opportunity to do that.
All right. And what motivated you to be a producer?
Well, it goes back to storytelling, and that's why I framed my book as I did, why I framed my book using photography, camera phone photography, and writing, journaling as prompts to learn those qualities and virtues and habits of happy people. And also, I draw not only from my television production life, but I draw on news events that have happened that also illustrate the different points that I'm writing about, and also drawing on films that we all know and love. And it just goes back to storytelling and using storytelling as a way to land those things that are so meaningful to our lives. Having love, having faith, being grateful, being forgiving.
Awesome. And when we talked about gratitude, what are the 8 essentials that could give you happiness? What are the 8 essentials? No, what are the 8 essentials you need to be happy? You think?
Well, I'll go through 3 of the foundational because we don't have enough. We don't have enough time to get through all 8 here. That's why I wrote. That's why I wrote the book. But the 3 foundational ones for me, and are the building blocks in my book. The first one is faith, and when I say faith, it's not a specific religious doctrine. Yeah, it's how you define faith for yourself. Is it faith in yourself? Is it faith in a source greater than you that is guiding you? We all have some kind of faith, even if it's as basic as I have faith that I get on a plane in Los Angeles and I arrive safely in New York, or the faith that when you fall down, your best friend will pick you up. We all have some kind of faith, and leaning into that as a way of being happy. And the next one would be love. And I think that we all come into this world as loving beings, and life happens, and some of us struggle more than others. And life, when I talk about life and love, it's accountability, taking responsibility for your life. Whatever is going on in your life, you are 100% responsible for that. Whether you realize it or not, you are. And taking the responsibility for your life, having enough self-love for your life and who you are, those are all important to creating the life that you want. And then the other one that's foundational is health. And when I say health, it's 3-dimensional. It's mind, body, and spirit. You are taking care of yourself physically, but you're also taking care of yourself emotionally. You're taking care of yourself spiritually. What goes on in your head gets manifested in your body, and all of that gets projected out into the world. So those are the 3 foundational happiness essentials that I write about.
And you producing this hit show, what lessons did you learn?
Well, it was the 2 that I had mentioned earlier, that not to judge a book by its cover, and you don't really know what you are going to do in a new situation until you are in that situation.
Yes.
Those were my 2 biggest lessons from producing Survivor.
And what would you do, like, for people that are going through, are overworked and are tired and exhausted? What advice would you give for those people?
Unplug. And when I say unplug, I mean you take time to shut off all of your notifications, your emails, the phone, and you take quiet time for yourself. You hit that pause button. And it's so important to do that on a regular basis, because if you are constantly taking in toxic personalities. You are taking in the negativity of the news. If you are not giving yourself some kind of reprieve from that, it wears you down. It starts to wear even on your immune system. So that pause is really important. And one of the great ways is meditation. And there are many people who say, well, I can't meditate, I have too many thoughts, and that's fine. We're thinking beings. And just start small. Just start with 1 minute focusing on your breath. And if a thought comes up, just let it come up and go away. Our thoughts rise and fall like our breath. And then the other thing to do is literally set boundaries. So especially now with what's going on in our coming out of COVID, and now we've got the conflict that's going on in the world now with Israel and Hamas. It's always going to be something. It's a flood, it's an earthquake, and it's important to set boundaries in that you open and close your day, perhaps. Even take a photograph of an open and close sign and post it on your phone or on your computer as a reminder that you are not open 24/7, that you need to have clear, this is when I'm available, this is when I'm not. Again, you need to give yourself that pause and control your media sources. Decide these are the 4 sources that I want to take my media information from, and ignore everything else. And then set a timer. Maybe you check in with the world events for a half hour in the morning, and then a half hour late in the afternoon. And you turn off the notifications in between, so you're not always, having those notifications like a siren, bringing you back into coverage that keeps you in a constant state of upset. So you're still staying engaged and informed, but you're just not inundated with it. And people who have toxic personalities, limit your amount of time that you're with them. Either cut them out altogether because they're bad news, or if you have to work with them or they're a family member that you have to interact with them, really be mindful of the amount of time, and not to be afraid to say, you know what, I've got a meeting I got to get to, and just cut it off. Just cut it off. If I am in a restaurant where somebody is going on and on about something terrible in their life, I will physically move myself. I'll go sit at another table. Or if somebody's talking loudly on a plane, I'll actually ask them if they could speak softer, because the entire plane is hearing them.
But what if they don't listen?
Well, I've had a couple of those. But at least you're trying. And that's also where having sound canceling headphones are really helpful. And then you can listen to music or watch a film that is more uplifting for you.
That's exactly. And how do you learn from not just stressful situations, but sometimes failure? How do you come back from that?
Well, I do not recognize failure. I recognize learning experiences. So perhaps a situation did not turn out as you had hoped, as you had planned for, all of those things. Life happens. However, I think a healthier approach is not to say I failed, not to register that as a failing, but register that as a learning experience. Why did what happened? And that's not to say you're now beating yourself up and blaming yourself, but objectively, now you're becoming an investigator and asking objective questions about why things happened as they did. And then what is the lesson? What can you take forward that turns an unconstructive, an unproductive situation, a negative situation into a constructive, into a productive, into a positive situation. And I think viewing it from the point of view of a lesson being learned is much, much healthier emotionally on you.
Exactly, exactly. Anything else you want to tell us from the book?
Well, the book is a roadmap, if you will. You know, the book is a creative approach to being happier. And it's a roadmap that uses guided phone camera photography and journaling prompts that engage intellectual concepts and make them heart concepts through your creativity. And I think doing it creatively, you embody it. You embody what it means to be loving, to have gratitude. Where do you need to be more forgiving? Where are you holding on so tight that you need to detach to the way you think somebody should behave or what you are owed? And my book takes you through that process of learning, you know, visually articulating, using the phone camera to visually articulate, what does faith mean to you? What does love mean to you? What does gratitude look like for you? You know, it helps give you clarity on what these concepts that create a happier person, what they are for you specifically. So instead of just reading, oh, okay, well, this is the idea behind it, but now through taking photographs, you're personalizing it for you. You're clarifying it for you, because we think in pictures. I mean, just do a thought experiment right now. Have a thought. And what is the image that's attached to it? Yeah.
And I love how you think. So with the book, what is next for you?
Writing more books. So the intention, the intention is that this book, which also has a companion app, so all of the photography assignments, the photo ops, and the journaling assignments that I call action opportunities, they are going to be put onto an app, which is soon to be released, that you can carry those activities that teach you to be happier. You can always take that with you. You know, if you have one of these, you know, you have access. And what I want to do is take each chapter, each one of the happiness essentials. So the happiness essential on faith, the one on love, the one on health, and make each one a deeper dive book.
Okay. Are you going to produce any other shows?
Well, heck yeah. I also have a travel business called Sojourn Explorers. Okay. And out of all of the experiences, everything I do, it comes out of experiences that I've had in my life. So my television producing experience, shooting all over the world, studying well-being, I took that experience and created a company, a travel it's an experiential travel design company where I create experiences for people that I'll take them to Africa, or I'll take them to walk the last 100 kilometers of the Camino de Santiago, and then I weave in the teachings. So what you are reading in the book, you travel with me, and then you get a real one-on-one experience of it.
And since how did you travel to 70 countries, by the way?
It was being a television producer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most of it comes from producing TV and then doing my journey 7 continents, doing a marathon, walking marathons on every continent. And then some of it is personal, but most of it is because of my work.
And what's your favorite country?
Well, it's a continent. It's Africa. Africa is my heart place, I promise you. Actually, right now, as we're speaking, I'm at a conference at Sundance.
Nice.
Yeah, and the conference is all about travel and luxury, high-end travel in Africa.
And what's your favorite? Ghana, South Africa.
Botswana.
Oh, Botswana. I
Yeah.
never heard of that. Okay.
Yeah, Botswana, which it's in the southern portion, it's all safari. Well, the animals seem so much healthier. The landscape seems more pristine. And when there is a lion sighting with cubs, you could be the only vehicle there with those cubs, as opposed to other national parks in Kenya or Tanzania, where suddenly you have 20 vehicles on one animal sighting. So it's a lot less pressure on the animals themselves. And the places that I go to have a significant conservation practice, philosophy in place, as well as a lot of community outreach. So while it's luxury experiential travel, it also is very meaningful. You know, there's community building, there's hiring the locals to work at the camps. So it's caring about the animals and keeping our earth still a place that we can all exist and enjoy.
Wow. You seem very fearless. So were you ever scared or had fear? Um, if when you while you're traveling, maybe you might run into a certain animal or people that's a little scary. You're not fearful?
Yes, I mean, when I first came to Africa, and that's why Africa is such a heart place for me, because I came here being mortified. I came here on assignment, and I was mortified for anything that I thought would sting, bite, chew, have me for an afternoon snack. And I would not get out of the vehicle. I would sit in the back seat in the center, as far away of from anything that would open a door for anything to get in to have me as a snack. And by the time I left 11 weeks later, I was transformed. I could not wait to get out of the vehicle. So the human who didn't want to get out of the vehicle now wanted to. And I love taking people to Africa for the first time, because I get to re-experience that feeling, through them, seeing your first giraffe, seeing your first elephant. But the thing that I did was climbing Kilimanjaro was a big one, because I had just finished shooting Expedition Africa, Stanley and Livingston, for Mark Burnett and History. And all those months and weeks and days of following modern day explorers going from Zanzibar on land, on foot, across Tanzania, just gave me a bug. And I knew that I could walk. I knew I had that natural ability. I just didn't know if I could climb a mountain or how I would be at altitude. And so one of our explorers was a mountain climber, and he took a small group of us afterwards. And what I understood and put into place was something that my mother taught me, and I grew up with, and I have a Greek background, and it was a Greek saying, which was bean by bean fills the bag. So I did not look at the entire mountain. If I did, I would have freaked out. So I just looked at the first step, then the second step, and the next one, and the next one. And before I knew it, I was at the summit crying, because I had no idea that I could climb a mountain. Mm-hmm.
Any animals? Was there ever a moment where like really like something almost happened but didn't?
Yes, it was on my first trip, and it was at the back end of the day. And we were all just happy from shooting. We had fun that day. We got great wildlife coverage, and we were in Botswana, and there was a stand of trees that we were going by. We were driving by, And we had heard elephants in that stand of trees. I mean, it was very tall and wide, so you weren't actually seeing the herd, but you were hearing them. And we had stopped the vehicle just to listen and to see if any of the elephants would come out. And then just all of a sudden, an elephant came out of the stand of trees and just charged us. And it was going full tilt, and the driver could not get the car started and into gear, and the elephant kept getting closer and closer and closer, and we finally got the vehicle going by about this much. And I'm telling you, our hearts just leapt out of our mouths. And then not long after that, we saw a game hunter driving by with an elephant's head in the vehicle. We understood why we were charged, because we didn't do anything to motivate that elephant. Those elephants were mourning the loss of one of their elephants. Yes. They were mourning and they were pissed off, so they were charging us, or at least that's what we felt, because it just, the timing was all, the elephant charged us, we got away, and then we saw this, big game hunter with an elephant's head in his vehicle, looking very smug with a big cigar. I mean, just so quintessential, and it was in that moment that I said, okay, we have to save these animals and not do these horrific things just for a trophy.
And do you speak other languages?
I'm happy that I can just get my way through English. Really? I did not get, my parents had the gift of language. They each were trilingual. My father spoke 5 languages. I can muddle my way through French, but languages that was not my gift.
So I have and you don't speak the language. How does that work?
There's usually enough people to speak English. I mean, it's a fairly common language. And then when you don't have that as a common language, you speak, heart to heart. You open doors for people. You give them some of your food. I mean, you show kindness, and that's the language, and that's the language you use, and how you bond is just how you treat one another, and the message gets across.
Awesome. So I know it's at that time to end the program, but we want to thank you, Maria, for being on the show. So you see the book, Take a Shot of Happiness, How to Write, Direct, and Produce the Life That You Want. So go and purchase it on Amazon. And you have a website?
Yes, so it's my name, mariabaltazzi.com, and you can buy my books. You can order it from Amazon, which also has a Kindle. There's Goodreads, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, the usual suspects where you can get books. So yeah.